What up, YouTube? This is Daniel Rucker with True Table. Welcome to the table. Today, I'm going to be discussing a topic that, again, I feel and believe that is very important. It's going to be self-respect. Now, this topic can go either way. I'm going to be primarily focused on my men today. However, ladies, feel free to click through, watch the video in its entirety, because there are some things that I believe you can take from it as well. But before I get started, before I get in the kitchen and start cooking, go ahead and hit the like button. Go ahead and subscribe. I much appreciate it. For those who are continuing to follow me, subscribing to the channel and sharing the content, I appreciate it because I do it for you guys. So, now that that's out the way, let's get started. Get a little adjusted. Why? Why is this topic something that I needed to discuss? I'm going to tell you why. It is one of the key components that I believe every person, and especially every man, needs. What sparked this particular topic actually was an article that I came across in regards to the whole Saweetie and Quavo rekindling of sorts, and I just grabbed my face and shook my head. I don't know Quavo. I don't know Saweetie. And that point is irrelevant in the sense that I don't need to necessarily know them. But what I took from it was that the situation and how their relationship divided, how it came to its end, came to its demise. I believe that from what I seen and what was exemplified in her behavior and the reason why the relationship ended, and now to know that he is considering taking her back, is saddening. And it goes into what I want to talk about today. Men, self-respect, but self-respect is of the utmost importance. See, a lot of times when I talk to guys and I'm, explaining to them different things, or I'm having them ask themselves certain questions, or we may be going over their relationships that they've had, relationship that they're currently having. See, a lot of what I've seen is that they're still victims of the social programming. They are still convinced that they have to operate in a way that is pander-like behavior, that is simp-like behavior. There's a difference between being a man who shows love and shows care and being a simp. And I may touch on that before I end this particular broadcast today. But the primary focus of today's conversation is self-respect. Gentlemen, in order for you to really reach the pinnacle of your creation, the fullness of your manhood, you first have to respect self. And self-respect goes into so many different facets. But one of the main things is that it's image of self. It is the thoughts that you allow to dominate your mind. It is what you participate in the world, what you're associated with in the world. What is your brand as a man? What do you stand for? What do you align your life with? What are the standards, morals, characteristics? All of these things make up self. And one of the things that I see that is still plaguing a lot of men, Quavo obviously, is that they don't seem to understand true value. They don't seem to understand that, one, especially when you're dealing with matters of the heart in relationships, because that's what a lot of people want to know about, and I'm here to talk about it. Fellas, one of the key components with dealing with any woman is that first, she's going to interact with what you show her. And when I mean what you show her is who you show her you are. The guy that you show her you are, the man that you present to her, the image, the characteristics, the personality, the moving of self, the handling of self, that's what they're absorbing. They are watching you and critiquing you. They are constantly measuring what kind of man you are. Once a woman realizes that you don't respect yourself, respect from her to you starts to dwindle. And therein lies the issue and the problem. What a lot of guys don't seem to understand. I've observed and heard men in real time request and demand respect from their woman. And it was saddened me because That's something that you should never have to convey to a woman. A man should never have to verbalize, you need to respect me. That should never come out of his mouth. If he's doing what is necessary, if he is showcasing the consistency, the standard, the character, the whole being of self, and it is working, it's progressive, it's healthy, it's functional, it's successful. My friends, men, respect is automatic for most women. If a woman is not respecting you, well then you got to do a diagnostics on self. A lot of times what happens is that the reason why these young ladies are not respecting you is not necessarily your fault. So I'm not here to say that it's solely your fault. Accountability definitely got to take some. And segue into my next point. There are certain cases that the woman you're dealing with does not know how to respect men, period. And that could be one of the reasons. Let's go down that trail. Let's assume that she's the type of woman that doesn't know how to respect men, period. Well, then men, you got to ask yourself, why are you dealing with her? You got to ask yourself, why is this particular woman occupying space in your life? Accountability. You can't expect respect from a woman who first does not know how to respect, chooses consciously not to show respect to men. And you will know this based on the verbiage she uses, based on her behavior, based on her responses, based on everything from communication to the time that she has with you, her demeanor, how she treats you, how she respects your resources, your time, your energy, all of that. But also asking a lot of questions. Asking the right questions will determine where her mindset is when it comes to men as a whole. Now, let's assume that you are dealing with a woman that does know how to respect men, that has a healthy foundation. I was sharing with a friend of mine about a week ago, through his love journey and things of that nature, that I believe in order for you to exemplify a healthy relationship, a full relationship, that first you have to identify a woman who is truly happy. If she is not happy with herself, if she is not happy with her life, if she is not happy with the person that she is, there is no amount of love, affection, time, money, energy, sex you can give this woman to make her happy. And I was sharing that with him, and I'm sharing it with you guys. That is one of the key components, fellas, of understanding, in the sense that if you're dealing with a woman who knows how to respect a man. Now, if you're dealing with the healthiest of women, and somehow, some way, respect starts to decline, well, then you got to ask yourself, what have I done to not stand on what I say I believe in or what I say I stand for? Because a lot of times, fellas, if a woman starts to dwindle in her behavior and she starts to change in her characteristics, that's usually a sign that something changed. Something you did change, something changed for her. And if it's respect primarily, well, have you been consistent? Have you been a man of your word? Have you followed through on the things you said you're going to do? And then if you can't follow through, explain why you can't do them. All of these things create a certain type of experience that a woman has while she's with you. One of the things I say is that people have to be very conscious of how a person is experiencing you. And I believe a lot of times in relationships, when a woman's with a man, she doesn't understand what he's experiencing being with her, and then vice versa. And so, since I'm talking primarily to the fellas, that's exactly what I'm going to touch on. Men, respect for self is of the utmost importance, but at the same time, you have to ask yourself, how is she experiencing me? And if you're curious, you ask the woman that question. How is she experiencing me? You cannot sit back and assume that you are doing everything that is necessary to the fullness of self, or whichever, that allows her to remain in that femininity that we love, to remain in that state of her respecting you, and so on and so forth. You can't assume that. You have to ask the right questions. But one of the things that I can tell you, fellas, if you want to lose respect, be inconsistent. If you want to lose respect, don't follow through with the things that you say you are, or the things that you say you stand for. That is one of the quickest ways to diminish reputation amongst your social circle, amongst your family, your friends, amongst co-workers, colleagues, and amongst your woman. A lot of times, men are really good at starting strong in short spurts, but not following organic self. What do I mean by organic self? What I mean is that they don't sit back and really move at what is their natural state, especially when it comes to dating. One of the things I shared in one of my broadcasts, and I'll reiterate it with you guys on this particular broadcast, is that when you date a woman, especially in the early stages, you got to be very careful on what kind of dynamics you create, on what type of environment you create, what kind of experiences you create. Because if you're not the type of guy that likes to go out to steakhouses every week, you're not the type of guy that wears a suit and a tie, shiny shoes and cufflinks. If you're not the type of guy that likes to hike and all of these things, gentlemen, don't do it, especially at the early stages. The early stages set the foundation for what this woman is expecting to get from you. And a lot of times what happens is that men operate in such a state of desperation that they think that they have to do all of these grand gestures or do all these extra things to gain the attention and the approval of the woman. And then once you got her, because that wasn't really you to begin with, you can't follow through on those things and you start becoming inconsistent. Why? Because that was never you in the first place. So I wanted to talk about that with self-respect because one of the content creators I follow, which I respect, O'Shea Duke Jackson, had touched on the whole Quavo and Saweetie situation, saying like, yo, what happened? I said the same thing. One of the things that I follow in a standard of mine is that if a woman ever decided to leave me, and I mean in any capacity, leave a relationship, if we were living together, she moved out, leave my presence, without there being a real reason why. Well, the way I operate is that she's telling me in her actions that one, she doesn't respect me, and at the same time, she'd rather be to herself and alone than be with me. That's fair, that's fine. But guess what? If you leave, you stay gone. And I have followed that rule for a lifetime. I don't go backwards. I don't allow for those things to occur. And I let that be known. So if any time there is a removal of herself and she chose to do so, well, then she knows that she can't come back. Why? Because I respect myself more than, I respect myself. My self-respect is of the utmost importance. I don't allow anybody to treat me worse than I treat me. And because that's a standard of mine, what I have found in my own life, in my own experience, is that I've had more cases where I haven't had to deal with disrespect in abundance with women, because I let it be known straight up. I'm very direct. I hold true to what I say. I follow through on what I say. I walk the talk. I talk the talk. I walk the walk. And that's what I want for you gentlemen. You got to really be careful as well as intentional about how you conduct yourself, how you are as a man. Since respect, in my opinion, is one of the most important things that you can get from a person, and especially your woman, it is imperative, gentlemen, that you understand first that you have to operate in a place of respect for self. You have to respect your own time. You have to respect your own word. You have to respect the standards that you put in place for your life, and you have to be consistent. So, without going and deep diving into my disappointment if Quavo decides to take this trash chick back, I wanted to more so share with you guys that don't be that type of gentleman. Understand your value, stand on your morals, stand on your standards, stand on your purpose, and be consistent. Self-respect is uber important. It is of the utmost importance. And if you want to experience the best version of yourself, if you want to continue to navigate your life in a successful way, if you want to continue to experience all that life has to offer, self-respect, gentlemen, is going to be one of the key pillars in your development, in your character, in order to accomplish just that. So, thank you guys That's my broadcast. Thank you for hanging out with me today. If you have not done so already, go ahead and hit that like button. Go ahead and subscribe. It's been about 15 minutes or so, so I'm going to go ahead and get out here, slide on out the kitchen. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and we will do this again soon. All right.